ENJOMOR steam engine kit, building this engine sent to me by Engine DIY. I received this package yesterday and it is a beautiful steam engine kit. Now for those gamers, you might recognise this engine as being the engine that inspired the game available on Steam called Steam Engine Simulator. I really do recommend it, but that's for another time. So this engine has been sent to me free of charge by Engine DIY to review for a video. So here I am looking through the brilliantly made instructions. Honestly, these are better than the instructions I got for other steam engine kits which I've built in the past. And here we are greeted with the first engine set. So in the first box, just move out of the way, and in here we've got the smaller parts such as some of the steam parts, and then we're taking out the burner, which is that. So now we can start the build. So step one is putting the rubber stoppers on the bottom of the baseboard. Now this is to stop the engine from moving around on the table when it is in motion. As you have no regulator with this engine, there is no way to regulate the steam flow, which means this engine runs as fast as it wants. So we need to put the rubber stoppers on the bottom of the base, which is to stop the engine moving around when the engine is reaching its high RPM. Now the base is done, it is time to start on the engine. This is the crank, valve gear and connection rod assembly. And this here is the piston. I know, it's quite nice, isn't it? So it's time to connect the piston to the connection rod. So what I'm doing here is connecting the piston to the piston rod, and then you put a pin through the two parts to connect them. This is the main valve chest. So in there the steam gets distributed between the exhaust valve and inlet valve. There's only two valves in this engine because it is single acting. So in this video here I'm just checking the instructions. That's the one I'm doing. I've got the parts and I'm installing the silicone O-ring in the valve chest to stop leakage, and this is the cylinder which is going on now, and that silicone O-ring helps stop any water leakage. Using the Allen key provided, I'm tightening the cylinder to the valve chest using the gasket, and it was actually quite well made. It fit beautifully, no leaks whatsoever. I was pretty amazed actually. So here you can see the finished cylinder and valve chest part. In this one here you can see the cylinder with the engine linkage, including the connecting rod, valve gear and crank. So here I'm just inserting the valve into the valve port and inserting the connecting rod into the cylinder. As you can see in this clip, the pistons come off because I had to take it off to do a quick modification, but it's very, very minor. So nothing wrong there. So now I'm going to do this. This is something I've never ever done before. I've got to build a boiler. Now I know this boiler looks more like a UFO, and maybe it is, you never know. Maybe some aliens came to the factory and abducted it and, you know, started making boilers, but you never know. But either way, it is quite a nice boiler. So what I'm doing here is prepping the bolts to fit the boiler. Now for the first bolt I'm going to put in, I'll do it in real time, but for the rest I'll speed up because there is quite a lot of bolts to go on this boiler, and you know, I don't want anyone falling asleep or anything like that. So now we have the bolts on. I'm going around with the Allen key and the spanner and tightening them up, because at the end of the day this is a boiler. This needs to hold pressure. Not much pressure, but it still needs to hold pressure. So I need to make sure all these are nice and tight. Don't be afraid to get them really tight, because I'm certainly not going to take this boiler apart again. So I'm just going around the spanner. The spanner and the Allen keys were all supplied by the maker, and they all come with the engine, so there are little to no parts that you need this engine, maybe a few pliers, but aside from that everything comes with the engine. So now we need to fit the legs to the boiler. Now these legs, I was quite impressed by what they have. They have an internal screw thread which screws onto the bottom of the bolts which you would have used to put the boiler together. So I thought that was pretty good. And then all you need to do at the end is fit a screw to the bottom of it from the underside of the base plate to make sure the boiler is securely mounted on the base. Because when the boiler is in steam, you don't want it falling off and rolling around. So we are almost at the end now. The boiler is securely mounted and now it's time to mount the engine. Off camera, I put the engine bases on. It was a bit fiddly, so I had to do it off camera. But here, I'm just checking where the engine will go. And in the next shot, you can see the engine is fully installed. And I'm using the Allen screw just to tighten the grub screw which holds the flywheel onto the crankshaft, because we don't want that moving around. And here is the finished engine. I'm very impressed actually. Now, all that's left to do is there was one part which I just needed a spare one of because the other one wouldn't quite fit properly. It is the valve rocker, which is close to the screen at the moment. And once I get that, and the company, Engine DIY, are sending me another one. They're very understanding and it's very nice of them to send me another one. And once I get that installed, the engine, I can hopefully run it on steam. Now that should be in about a week or two, because they aren't in England, they're overseas from where I am. I'm in England, in the northeast of England, and they're on the other side of the world. So it'll take a few weeks to get here, but before then, I've still got plenty of things coming on the channel, so you won't get too bored. So thank you so much for Engine DIY for sending me this engine. It was extremely kind of you, and I can't wait to test it on Steam. Thank you all for your support. I shall see you in the next video. Thank you and goodbye.